The scalding coffee hit my chest like a wave of liquid fire, soaking through my shirt in an instant, the heat searing my skin before I could even scream. "Sign it, or get out of this family," Dad bellowed, his face twisted in a rage I'd never seen, veins bulging on his forehead like ropes about to snap. The mug shattered against the kitchen floor, shards skittering across the linoleum as the bitter aroma mixed with a metallic tang of my own blood rising in my throat from the shock. I staggered back, clutching at my blistering flesh, the pain a white-hot explosion that drowned out everything else. Mom's gasp from the doorway, the distant hum of the refrigerator, the world narrowing to that burning agony. My knees buckled, and I collapsed onto the cold tile, gasping, tears streaming down my face not from sorrow but from the sheer, unrelenting torment. In that moment, as the blisters began to form under my ruined shirt, I didn't just feel pain. I felt the fracture of everything I thought was unbreakable. My family, my trust, my life. I don't know how long I lay there, curled in a fetal position, the kitchen spinning around me. Mom rushed over, her hands fluttering like panicked birds, but she didn't touch me at first, as if afraid the heat would leap to her too. "Oh God, Eric, what have you done?" she whispered to Dad, her voice a mix of horror and accusation. Dad stood there, chest heaving, the unsigned document, a thick sheaf of legal papers about the family business, crumpled in his fist. His eyes, usually sharp and calculating behind those wire-rimmed glasses, now held a flicker of regret, but it was buried under layers of defiance. "He wouldn't listen," Dad muttered, more to himself than to us. "Stubborn like his mother. Always thinking he knows better." The words stung almost as much as the burns, a reminder of the chasm that had been widening between us for years. I was 28, back home after losing my job in the city, trying to help with a failing auto repair shop that had been in the family for generations. But Dad saw me as a threat, not a savior, someone who asked too many questions about the books, the missing funds, the shady deals he'd been making to keep it afloat. The ambulance ride was a blur of sirens and sterile smells, the paramedics peeling away my shirt with careful scissors, revealing angry red welts bubbling into blisters across my torso. Second-degree burns, they said, wrapping me in cool gels that offered fleeting relief. In the ER, under the harsh fluorescent lights, I stared at the ceiling tiles, counting the pockmarks to distract from the morphine-dulled ache. But my mind raced, replaying the scene over and over. Why had he snapped like that? The document was a power of attorney, granting him full control over the business and our family home, collateral he'd mortgaged without telling me. I'd refused to sign because I'd discovered the discrepancies. Thousands siphoned off to offshore accounts, suppliers paid late while Dad's investments in crypto and God knows what drained the coffers. He called it creative accounting, I called it theft. But throwing coffee, that was assault. A line crossed from verbal barbs to physical violence. As the doctor stitched a minor laceration from a shard, I felt a seed of resentment take root, hot and unyielding, mirroring the burns on my skin. Mom visited that night, her face pale and drawn, lines etched deeper around her eyes from years of mediating our family's silent wars. She sat by my bed, twisting her wedding ring like a talisman. "He's sorry, Alex," she said softly, using my childhood nickname that now felt like a mockery. "The stress. The shop's on the brink. He didn't mean to hurt you." I turned my head away, the hospital pillow crinkling under my ear. "Didn't mean to. He aimed right at me, Mom. That's not an accident." Her silence stretched, heavy with unspoken truths. I pressed her, my voice hoarse from the painkillers. "You knew about the money, didn't you? The embezzlement." She hesitated, then nodded, tears welling. "We were going to lose everything. Your father thought. He thought borrowing from the business was temporary. But it spiraled." Betrayal bloomed in my chest, sharper than the burns. Not just Dad but Mom too, complicit in the lies, the cover-up. They'd built a life on sand, and now they wanted me to sign it away, to absolve them by handing over my inheritance, my future. Discharged after 2 days, I returned home to a house that felt like a stranger's. The kitchen had been scrubbed clean, No trace of the incident except a faint coffee stain on the baseboard. Dad avoided me, retreating to his office with grunts and averted eyes. I bandaged my chest in the bathroom mirror, wincing at the raw, puckered skin that would scar forever. A permanent reminder. In the quiet hours, alone in my old bedroom with its faded posters and dusty trophies, resentment festered into obsession. I lay awake, fantasies swirling. Confronting him publicly, exposing the fraud to the authorities, watching his empire crumble. But doubt crept in. Was I overreacting? He was my father, flawed but family. The inner conflict tore at me. Love twisted with hate, loyalty clashing with justice. I started small, subtle, rifling through his desk drawers while he was out, photographing receipts and bank statements on my phone. Each click felt like a step toward something darker, a quiet resolve hardening in my core. Weeks passed in a tense standoff. Dinners were silent affairs, the clink of forks echoing like accusations. Mom tried to bridge the gap with forced small talk. "How's the job hunt going, honey?" she'd ask, her smile brittle. I'd mumble responses, my eyes flicking to Dad, who ate mechanically. His once commanding presence diminished by guilt he wouldn't admit. One evening, as rain pattered against the windows, he finally spoke. "About that night, I lost control. But you need to understand, the business is all we have." His voice cracked slightly, revealing a vulnerability I'd rarely seen. For a moment, pity stirred in me, but then I remembered the pain, the betrayal. "Understand. You stole from us, Dad. From me." He slammed his hand on the table, making the glasses jump. "Stole. Built this. You kids think you can waltz in and judge." The argument escalated, voices rising like a storm, until Mom intervened, her pleas a fragile dam. But in my mind, the seed grew. Revenge wasn't just an impulse, it was a necessity. I began planning in earnest, the slow burn of suspense building like a fuse. I contacted a lawyer friend from college, anonymously at first, emailing scans of the documents. "Hypothetically," I wrote, "if someone was embezzling from a family business, what recourse?" The replies were sobering. Audits, lawsuits, potential jail time. But I hesitated, moral conflict gnawing at me. Was I willing to destroy my own family? Nights blurred into feverish research on my laptop, the glow illuminating my scarred chest as I traced Dad's financial trails. I discovered more. Not just embezzlement, but bribes to city officials for zoning favors, a web of corruption that implicated local bigwigs. The knowledge empowered me, but also terrified. What if it backfired? What if Mom suffered too? I confided in my sister Lena, over a hushed phone call. She was 3 years younger, living across state lines, distant from the drama. "Alex, he's our dad," she said, her voice wavering. "But if it's true, God, I don't know." Her doubt mirrored mine, adding layers to my obsession. Was revenge justice or just pettiness? The turning point came during a family gathering, a forced barbecue in the backyard, smoke from the grill curling into the humid air. Relatives milled about, laughing over beers, oblivious to the undercurrents. Dad played the gracious host, slapping backs and telling old stories, but his eyes darted to me warily. I smiled back, a mask of civility hiding the storm inside. Aunt Clara pulled me aside, her perfume cloying. "Heard about the accident," she whispered, nodding at my chest. "Coffee spill, right?" I nodded, the lie bitter on my tongue. But inside, fury boiled. Dad had spun it as clumsiness, protecting his image. That night, alone in the garage amid the scent of oil and rust, I made my first move. Hacking into his email with a guest password, our family dog's name, predictable. Messages poured out, affairs too. No worse. Correspondence with a shady investor promising quick flips on stolen funds. Heartbreak hit anew. This wasn't just financial betrayal, but a dismantling of the man I'd idolized as a kid. As summer faded into fall, leaves crunching underfoot like brittle bones, my plans coalesced. I'd expose him, but not crudely, strategically, letting the noose tighten slowly. I started leaking anonymous tips to the local paper, small at first. Questions about the shop's permits. The reporter called Dad for comment. I overheard the panic in his voice, the slammed receiver. Suspense mounted with each day, my heart pounding at every creak in the house, fearing discovery. Inner thoughts warred. Guilt over Mom's worried glances, obsession with the poetic justice of watching him squirm. One rainy afternoon, as thunder rumbled like distant artillery, Dad confronted me in the living room. "You think I don't know what you're doing?" he hissed, his breath sour with whiskey. "Those emails, how?" Denial rose instinctively, but I met his gaze, cold resolve winning. "You started this, Dad. The burns. That's nothing compared to what you've done." He recoiled, a flicker of fear in his eyes, the first crack in his armor. The halfway mark approached, tension coiling like a spring. I'd gathered enough evidence for a full audit, but doubt lingered. Was this revenge or self-preservation? Mom sensed the shift, cornering me in the hallway one evening, her hands trembling. "Please, Alex, let it go. For all of us." Her plea tore at me, resentment mixing with love. But the betrayal was too deep. I couldn't stop. As part 1 drew to a close, a package arrived. Anonymously sent financial records I'd mailed to myself for safekeeping. Opening it, my hands shook, knowing this was the point of no return. The story's slow burn ignited. Hints of vengeance emerging undeniable. The package trembled in my hands, the manila envelope unmarked except for my address scrawled in block letters, a disguise I'd used to mail it from a distant post office. Inside, the damning evidence. Printouts of bank transfers, forged invoices, emails admitting to the schemes. Rain lashed the windows, mirroring the turmoil in my chest as I spread them across my bed. This was it, the arsenal for my revenge. But as I stared at the papers, guilt surged like nausea. Mom's face flashed in my mind, her weary eyes pleading for peace. Was I becoming the monster I despised? The inner conflict raged. Fantasies of Dad's downfall clashed with fear of the fallout. Broken family, lost home, my own soul tainted. I paced the room, the carpet muffling my footsteps, the air thick with the scent of damp earth from outside. Obsession had morphed into cold resolve, but doubt whispered, "What if there's another way?" Days blurred into calculated moves, suspense building in the quiet routines of the house. I feigned normalcy, helping at the shop, where the clang of tools and whir of lifts provided cover for my surveillance. Dad grew paranoid, double-locking his office, glancing over his shoulder like a hunted animal. One morning, over burnt toast and cooling coffee, I avoided the stuff now, the smell alone triggering phantom pains. He broached it indirectly. "Things are tight," he said, voice gruff. "Maybe sell the place." Mom nodded eagerly, but I saw the manipulation, pushing for a quick exit before the audits hit. "Sell? After what you've done?" I replied evenly, suppressing the rage bubbling beneath. He stiffened, fork clattering. "What I've done? Boy, you have no idea the sacrifices." The dialogue hung heavy, revealing his suppressed guilt, my hidden fury. Tension simmered, every word a spark. I escalated subtly, contacting the IRS anonymously via burner app, uploading snippets of evidence. The response was swift. A letter arrived, official seal glaring, requesting records. Dad's reaction was volcanic, pacing the kitchen, cursing under his breath, sweat beading on his brow despite the chill autumn air. "Someone's out to get me," he muttered to Mom, who shot me a knowing glance. Heartbreak pierced me, she suspected, but her loyalty to him held. In my room that night, under the dim lamp's glow, I wrestled with moral grayness. Revenge felt justified. He'd scarred me physically and emotionally, but the obsession consumed me, sleep fractured by nightmares of his pleading face. Foreshadowing crept in, a cryptic email from an unknown sender, warning of consequences. Was Dad onto me, or was it paranoia? The plot thickened at Thanksgiving, the house filled with the aroma of turkey and stuffing, a facade of warmth amid the frost. Relatives chattered, but undercurrents swirled. Lena arrived, her eyes searching mine for clues. During a quiet moment in the den, fire crackling in the hearth, she whispered, "I found out about the affair." Affair. My world tilted. "What?" She nodded, voice low. "Dad and that investor's wife. It's in the emails you sent me." Betrayal layered upon betrayal. Not just financial, but personal, shattering the remnants of my childhood illusions. Humiliation burned anew. He'd risked everything for lust? That night, as guests departed and the house echoed empty, I confronted Mom alone in the kitchen, dishes clinking softly. "You knew about her too." Tears streamed down her face. "I forgave him. For the family." Her words fueled my resentment. Forgiveness as weakness, complicity as love. Inner thoughts spiraled. Was my revenge against them both now? Pacing accelerated, quiet calculation giving way to action. I met the lawyer in a dingy cafe across town. Steam from espresso cups fogging the windows. "This could ruin him," she said, scanning the files. "Fraud, tax evasion, years in prison." Fear gripped me, poetic justice, but at what cost? Moral conflict peaked. Fantasies of his handcuffed walk of shame warred with guilt over Mom's potential homelessness. I proceeded, filing the complaint under seal. The clerk's stamp a thunderclap in my mind. Suspense mounted as weeks dragged. Every mail delivery a potential bomb. Dad's health declined. Sleepless eyes, trembling hands. His suppressed rage erupting in small ways, like snapping at customers, the shop's reputation fraying. The twist began unfolding one stormy evening, wind howling like accusations. A knock at the door. 2 detectives, badges flashing under porch light. "Mr. Harlan, we need to discuss some irregularities." Dad's face drained of color, Mom clutching his arm. I watched from the stairs, heart pounding, a mix of triumph and terror. As they questioned him in the living room, voices muffled but tense, I slipped upstairs, adrenaline surging. But then the unexpected. Searching his office one last time, I found a hidden drawer. Inside, letters, old, yellowed, from my real father? No, adoption papers, revealing Dad wasn't biological. He'd raised me as his own after my birth dad's death, but the business was mine by blood right. The shock hit like another scalding wave. His betrayal stemmed from insecurity, fear of losing what wasn't truly his. Layers peeled back. He wasn't just a villain, but a man haunted by inadequacy. Guilt crashed over me, cold and unrelenting. Was my revenge destroying a flawed guardian? I almost called it off, doubt flooding. But resentment won. He'd chosen corruption over honesty. The climax built. The audit raid on the shop, agents swarming like ants, seizing computers amid the metallic tang of grease. Dad collapsed, clutching his chest, heart attack. Paramedics rushed him, sirens wailing into the night. In the hospital waiting room, sterile and echoing, Mom turned to me, eyes blazing. "This is your doing." Her accusation pierced, revealing her hidden motive, protecting him at all costs, even from me. The payoff twisted sharply. Dad survived, but confessed everything in recovery. Embezzlement, the affair, to avoid trial. But the shock, the investor was a front. He'd funneled money to a secret account for me and Lena, a misguided nest egg. Poetic justice soured. His betrayal masked twisted love. I visited him. The beeps of monitors underscoring our fractured bond. "Why?" asked, voice breaking. "Fear," he admitted, tears tracking his cheeks. "Of losing you." Revenge's consequences unfolded. The business sold, proceeds split, but family shattered. In the end, I walked away, scars on chest and soul, the pursuit's obsession leaving me hollow. Was it worth it? The question lingered, a psychological echo in the quiet aftermath.